We're back at it, bitches. I didn't write an intro for this video, so we're just gonna raw dog life, which is also called being unmedicated, but, you know, I wouldn't know anything about that. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna be going over 24 more analog horrors, most of which that were recommended by you. And you can see me be in the phenomenal position of telling my own fans that the stuff they recommend me is ass. This is ultimately your video at the end of the day. So if I don't like something that you recommended, just remember it's a personal attack against you and everything you stand for and like, so enjoy! As always, make sure that you go and support the original authors of all these works. Again, some of the series that I'm going to be talking about are much more underground than a good amount of the ones I talked about in the last episode. Like, a fair amount of them don't even have like 10K subscribers. Some of them don't even have 5K subscribers. Like, there's some really underrated stuff here that even if I didn't 100% love, I still think people should go check out and support in their own way because, fuck man, this genre's kicking. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe, like, and tell your mom that the guy on the fucking screen made you giggle again. She loves to hear that. She really likes to hear that from you. Also, follow me on Twitter. I post bangers all the time and sometimes like teasers for upcoming videos, and it's a dying website, so I want to go out on a high at the very least. But yeah, we've got our basket full of adorables here, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Here we go. First off, we have, ooh, Chainmail Chasers. Have you ever had something recommended to you that, like, you feel like it's pandering to you specifically, even though the person that made it has no fucking clue who you are? That was Chainmail Chasers for me. So Chainmail Chasers is the story of Grace and her adorable gaggle of fuck-up friends doing deep dives into some of the earliest internet image macros slash creepypastas like Jeff the Killer, the Slender Man images, Rake, Mario. You know, remember that face from Mario? Remember the Mario creepypasta where he kills his brother and he goes into lava and he burns to death, but he's okay at the end? Well, aside from, like, his skin being gone. We've all been there. So something I've really enjoyed about this series, as well as a couple other ones that I've reviewed in the past, is not being afraid to do comedy and to do, like, humorous shit. Like, Grace, our protagonist, is unironically one of the funniest fucking people I've ever seen as, like a protag in an analog horror series.
You cannot make an image that bad that way. That's fucking nasty. Really? Oh, okay. Oh, shit.
I cannot believe we're discussing the moral implications of deleting a JPEG.
God, I fucking hate cars. They're so why? Everyone here drives big, giant-ass trucks, and they're so loud. Anyway.
Close enough. Welcome back, Paul from Petscop. But the reason I love this series so much is because, as you probably fucking guessed from the fact I'm even making this video at all, I used to be really big into, like, the Slender Man mythos way back in the day when it came to, like, Everyman Hybrid, Marble Hornets, Tribe 12, that whole situation. I used to watch this channel called, I think it was either Compile Truth or Compilation Truth, which was just this dude, you know, compiling essentially all the Slender Man sightings from the aforementioned videos and eventually starting to be attacked and stalked by Slender Man as well. And that was the most compelling shit to a young man like me. 2012 Scott ate that shit up. So seeing this sort of like this love letter created to early internet horror and early digital horror, like recreated and repackaged into the modern day is both really fresh and just kind of a brilliant idea, all things considered. And the entire thing is made in the style of like those early 2010s Slender Man spotted videos from fucking bit-crunched X-Files theme in the background. Requiem of a Dream, the original soundtrack, plays in the background of one of these videos. Like, these are very clearly being made by someone who, one, knows their shit and has such a deep respect for that kind of early internet horror. And the aesthetic is just hit perfectly. The vibe is phenomenal. Visually, the series also kind of evolves over time from like just text-based, like moving images, Ken Burnsing across the screen to like legitimately some really fucking amazing video editing.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Stop.
Overall, I don't think I could say enough good things about it. This was one of the first user recommended analog horrors to me, and I gotta say, you guys got me down pat. You read me to filth. I fucking love this thing. S tier. Absolutely S tier. I'm legitimately so excited to see more from the series, and thank you for recommending it to me. God, we're starting off way too positive. I gotta get a lot more shitty as this video goes on. We've got, oh brother, Woodlands National Park. How to start this? Oh, I know how. Look, I get what they were going for here. Outdoors horror by way of national park where strange occurrences take place. And hey, if you squint your eyes and ignore the near constant cultural appropriation, Wendigo. Woodlands National Park is a completely serviceable series that, whether it intends to or not, gives off big, hey bro, get the camcorder, let's go out of the woods and record some spooky shit. It's very amateurish, but it's amateurish in a way that for someone who also at some point has recorded some stupid shit in the woods with his buddies,
well, it appears you have me surrounded, I guess,
is a little nostalgic. However, that's where the good things I have to say about it end, and my gripes begin. For one, the series is incredibly formulaic. If you've seen one episode, you've more or less seen all of them. I mean, it really just kind of comes down to, hey, here's the Rangers on screen telling about a thing, ooh, scary glitch effect, ooh, here's a placard telling us about the thing, and then, ooh, back to the Rangers, and then, dude, we gotta go, we gotta run, we gotta get the fuck out of here right now, dude, we gotta go.
John, what is that? John, we gotta go. John, we gotta go. Go, now. Go. All right, we gotta go.
This happens, like, for half of the fucking series, and it's just, it's dull. It's very dull watching, to be quite honest with you. I also just don't understand why the fuck they decided to set it in the 1970s. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Sometimes technology shown on screen is directly anachronistic to the time period, as well as the fact that, like, you don't do anything with the 1970s aesthetic or the culture that existed. Honestly, setting this in the 90s probably would have made a lot more sense, to be quite frank with you. I mean, at least then it would make sense, like, oh yeah, everyone has their own camcorder, so obviously the Rangers would have their own and would want to make their own little introductory series to new people coming to the park, but I don't know, we didn't do that. It's 1975 for some fucking reason. Oh, also, the misspelling on certain things is just kind of really fucking hilarious. There's one episode where it's like, oh, in 1850s, these miners were killed by these cave critters, which are like scary monsters that live inside the cave. And when they get to like the placard thing where it like actively says all the information about these creatures, they misspell miners.
That's funny. I'm in the same cave looking for miners.
I don't know, it felt very half-baked, if that makes sense. Like, there's an idea for something here, but its execution is really lacking in a lot of ways. And I don't want to be too mean to it, because it's very clearly just a couple of guys, you know, spray painting airsoft guns and going into the forest to record their internet horror thing. So, like, I don't think anything malicious was behind this when they created it, and I don't think, like, you know, they were making high art to begin with, but also, you know, if I don't like a thing, I gotta be honest that I didn't like it. So, again, go check it out if you're interested, or if you want to see if, you know, you have a different opinion. And if you do, by all means, go down and tell me in the comment section below. But I'm gonna say D tier for that one. Look at that spread. Man, I got my wish of being an asshole. Wow. Chezz Kids Archive. 144p. We meet again. Chezz Kids Archive was interesting to watch because, God, this series looks like shit. Just fucking ass. And I can say that because it's a stylistic choice. Now, you see, Chezz Kids is really difficult for me to talk about, primarily because I like some parts that are there, but most of it is just kind of inconsequential stuff, like videos of walk cycles or of animations of one character doing a thing.
They beat him and they robbed him.
I get what they're doing. They're trying to give this credence to, like, yeah, we're archiving everything from Chezz.com, so obviously we're gonna have some, you know, banal bullshit happening in between. But, you know, it's an interesting thing to juxtapose that with, like, oh, here's the Christmas special where we show a woman's bludgeoned in face in shockingly good detail for 144p.
Have a holly jolly Christmas and the cake you didn't hear.
The story of Chezz Kids, as I was able to ascertain it, is that this lady, I think her name was Sarah, created ChezzKids.com. She got into a relationship with a guy whose name I can't remember anymore, and she died. Quite brutally, it appears. And that death was put into the website all right, at certain aspects of it. They're very keen on showing her bludgeoned, beaten to death body and face quite frequently. As a setting, like, you know, archiving this old, like, almost cool math games-esque website that has a secret, hidden, darker theme in the back of it, I really like as, like, a setting, as a backdrop to an analog horror series. I think that's really fresh. I think that's a really interesting take on doing it. But in its current state, I feel like Chezz Kids is kind of really middling in the sense that I don't think it's bad, but I think, like, more of it needs to come out before it can really start to shine in a way. I don't think it's bad. I think it's definitely worth watching. I think there's definitely, like, an interesting mystery happening at the heart of this, but in regards to, like, casual viewing, like, if you just watched the videos in its current state, like, one, you'll be very confused, and also you'll be wondering why there was so much, like, non-scary shit placed in between there. I don't know. I think Chezz Kids is going to get B tier for me. It's not bad, but I think that I will begin to consider the series a lot higher tier and will enjoy it a lot more once more of it comes out and once more storytelling is done to actively make the scares within a lot more compelling. So I'm going to say B tier for Chezz Kids. We got... I'm struggling to hold it. Dreams of an Insomniac. Y'all heard of Postra? You're about to. Dreams of an Insomniac is kind of an interesting series in the sense that when I started it, I really wasn't that impressed by its first video, but the more in the series I watched, the more I started to really enjoy just how the final execution turned out for the series. Like, the first episode, it's not bad. Like, it's definitely got things that I enjoy about it. Specifically, I love the aesthetic that kind of comes with all of Postra's work, for when it comes to, like, that very, like, cartoony, Halloween color aesthetic. Like, having an emergency alert system be actively in the Halloween primary colors is very cute, and I really love that. But, like, I don't think there was a whole lot to really sink your teeth into at the time. As far as opening episodes to a series, I feel like it almost underserves just how good the series gets over time. Like, the next video where it's, like, in remembrance of this police officer and the crazy shit that happens, it's fine. It's not bad. It's got some good scares in it. The one that follows that... Oh, brother. I think a thing I really like about this series, especially with the last couple of videos, is how it's just so not afraid to delve into very strange and surreal color choices. Like, Postra being in complete fucking green every time they're on screen, to anytime it cuts back to the Foundation, these brutal, dark, blood-like reds, occasionally being juxtaposed by lighter burgundies of these nightmare creatures. In a world that is so interested in being as realistic as possible with the genre, it's really interesting to see, and it's really refreshing to see in a lot of cases, someone who's so open to embracing kind of an aesthetic, stylistic decision for their color scheme and for the way their series looks that I really, really appreciate. That's something you can probably say about the whole series overall, to be honest with you. That the entire thing, even if, like, I don't think it hits the, like, the horror beats as much as I would hope for, still looks really, really good. And as the series progresses, sounds really, really good as well.
For the first time, I saw his face.
It's mind-boggling. Like, genuinely some Hollywood-level shit going into this. This might get me in trouble, but has anyone ever noticed that Postra in this video kind of has the same intonation as, like, early MatPat?
I tried to look for answers to that question for a while, and nothing came of it.
And before we go, here's one final test. One truth and one lie. Ready? Boobs.
It's not an insult in the slightest. I mean, we all wish we could look and sound so professional. I would almost describe Dreams of an Insomniac as a slow burn of sorts, in the sense that the first video, you know, didn't really hit me in the ways that I was hoping it to, but later entries really hit the mark very, very well. So I'm gonna say A tier for Dreams of an Insomniac. What will we get next? Will it be C tier? Will we have a full gambit? Oh, let's hope. We have Dog Nightmares. So Dog Nightmares was actually not recommended to me. I had discovered this channel prior to this video. Actually, prior to me making my original analog horror tier list. One of the videos in Dog Nightmares inspired me to make my own analog horror series that ended up being in that video. Like the Jaywalker Investigations thing that I made at the very end, that was inspired by episode 2 of Dog Nightmares. The vibe that I got from that video was exactly what I was trying to capture in my own. And really what that is just homegrown horror, the kind of really unsettling type of fright that comes from something so close to your heart, like old pictures of your family. And that's a vibe that I think really just kind of resonates the entire series overall. Something I really like about this series is that I really underestimated the cinematography of it and just how fucking good it gets. Like, dude, holy shit. This is some real phenomenal talent going on here. And some of the edits as well, like with the crinkled up paper, with the children's drawing, like this is an underrated series for the level of talent and just incredible work being put into it. But nobody cares about how good a series looks. They want to know how scary it is. Is Dog Nightmares scary? No. I don't think anything in the series that ultimately made me jump or ultimately like gave me nightmares, but there was just this underlying dread within the entire series as it was going on. Like when our main character is flipping through channels and they start hearing like subliminal messages about the dogs still being out there.
Only the dog is still out there. The dog is still out there.
It's, I think, very slow burn, very spooky. More than anything. I don't think it's so much as like shit your pants scary as like you will leave watching this feeling a little unsafer. And I honestly don't think that that's not exactly what Piggy Soda, the creator, was going for. I think that in regards to making a slow burn, frightening kind of horror-based thing, like this is how you do it. That dog is frightening to look at. And it's replacing a dog that is also frightening to look at. Are dogs just fucking weird in this universe? I say that, the next video is gonna have like this motherfucker and I'm gonna look like an idiot. I'm gonna be like, well, no, that's a normal dog. I also really like the way that Batty moves, like the jittering, weird fucking, like almost like shuddering movement. When I talked about in the last video about Darkmind rigging some of his dudes to like, you know, move a bit more freakily or have some more animation, this is the stuff I'm talking about because but yeah, overall, just a very unsettling series to watch that I think is only going to get better as more episodes of it come out. So I'm going to go ahead and put Dog Nightmares in A tier. Very excited to see what the future has in store for this strange dog-related... I fucked it up. Yeah! Let's see here. We have The Children Under the House. This one was highly recommended to me after the last video, primarily because it was kind of pitched to me as almost like its own thing within the larger Vintage 8 universe. For those that don't remember, Vintage 8 is the creator of the Tangivirus, the Oracle Project, and then The Human Trial. That's right. Yeah, I made the last video. I watched the last video. And The Children of the House, despite kind of existing within that same universe, like geographically, really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the rest of the overarching plot that Vintage 8 has been creating. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that that's really to the series' benefit. The Children Under the House is the story of Chezz, who gave up her voice to be able to see ghosts and is now seeing a therapist because that's not how you cope, apparently. Turns out that the house that this family has moved to is actually haunted as fuck, and their youngest daughter, Chezz, can see them. And everyone's like, that's just an imaginary friend. And the therapist is like, why the fuck is your imaginary friend bifurcated? And as we learn throughout the story, Chezz is able to see not only just this one dead girl, but like 50 people. I think it's like 7 total. Let's call them a ghost polycule of sorts, of children underneath the house that are all haunting her. That joke probably can't make it in. Anyways, long story short, they find out who actually killed all these kids, and they confront them, and they get the murderers to admit that they killed these kids, and that gives the kids the power to kill them in return, because it, like, releases their spirits, because they were drugged with heroin before they died, so, like, they were confused in the afterlife, because they were in this dreamlike state, and it is kind of really weird to describe you know, in a quiet room to myself with no one else here, but it happens. The Children of the House is a pretty well-made, like, series, to be perfectly honest with you. I do think it suffers from a couple creative decisions that I don't really think manifest quite well or make a whole lot of sense. Like, the dad is pretty unceremoniously killed, assumedly to get his family to move out of the house. You know, the house that all the children are under and are dead. The dead child. And his death kind of comes out of nowhere and is also just, you know, it's very plot convenient, we'll say that much. Like, it comes directly after he writes a note to his daughter where like, hey, baby girl, daddy's ready to listen now. And the moment I saw that, I'm like, oh, he's dead yesterday. And at the end, like, it seems like nobody gives a fuck about the fact that dad is dead. I feel like that's something that would really traumatize some people or, you know, not have a great situation after the fact, but hey, fuck it, who cares? One thing I like about the series is that the child dialogue actually feels realistic. I say dialogue. The child doesn't speak into the very end, but like she draws or like just writes her answers in crayon. And for a lot of series that would really struggle to not just use children as spooky exposition machines, like this is done pretty damn well. And when so many other series just really drop the ball on that, seeing it done well is genuinely a breath of fresh air. Having a child's drawings be the main form of the story being told to us and not having it feel super forced or super convoluted is also a really interesting stylistic choice and works quite well with the series overall. I would go so far as to say a lot of Vintage 8's work isn't good because it's scary, but it's good because it's just good storytelling. It's very easy to become engrossed by it. Even if, you know, at times I feel like certain plot points don't make a lot of sense or, you know, the ending isn't nearly as well landed as I would hope it would be, I've never been bored watching one of their videos. So I'm going to go ahead and put The Children of the House in A tier because while it does have the unenviable task of being set in the same universe as so much other crazy fucking shit, I think in regards to being a grounded, very self-focused story overall that, you know, it sticks the landing pretty well and is as compelling as any of other Vintage 8's work, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in A tier. We got The Oldest View. So I feel like there's no proper discussion about either The Oldest View or The Backrooms without a 30-minute dissertation about how fucking ungodly talented Kane Pixels is as a creator. This is someone who more or less has created an entire new subgenre of horror on the internet. More or less created, like, I would say an entirely new form of found footage. Everything that we're seeing being created in Blender and yet looking damn near photorealistic? From the subtle camera movements of our main protagonists who run around these different spaces to just how good all the things on screen look. Sure, there's some things occasionally that, you know, kind of give it away that make you think, oh, that's very clearly just a Blender asset. But a lot of the time it's just, no, this could be happening. I believe this fucking staircase exists in the middle of the woods that leads me down to a mall that was demolished in Texas years ago. Kane Pixels is just a phenomenal creator and deserves all the accolades that he has ever gotten, and this will not be the last time I say nice things about him in this video. But how is The Oldest View? Is it good? Yeah, it's good. I think overall it is, from start to finish, I think it is genuinely one of the best things contributed to the analog horror or the horror genre in general, as far as like production, overall aesthetic, fear factor, scares, like ambiance. Like, something that I love about Kane's work is that oftentimes it really does just speak for itself. It doesn't need, you know, very heavy degrees of dialogue or lore building. Like, sometimes the scariest shit going on is the stuff that you can just see in front of you. A gigantic rolling giant trying to smack your ass with his big, weird, flowery hands. That's pretty frightening stuff. I think the story of The Oldest View is, in many ways, a little bit too impenetrable to a degree. You know, the sort of meta-narrative being created here about the things that we forget in the horrors of remembering them in the wrong context, so to speak. I think overall, most viewers watching it are not gonna come away with that incredibly nuanced perspective about the horrors of forgetting our own past and then discovering them in the most horrific of ways. I think most people would say, whoa, scary mall underground with big rolling evil giant dude? Was that a fucking horse?
Rehab was supposed to be a fresh...
Some might have issues with the pacing because a lot of the rolling giant video, of which I think it's like 46 minutes long or something, I could be wrong, but it's nearly an hour. There could be some criticism that it kind of meanders over a while and that, nothing really comes of like the scary parts of it until like the mid to end sections of it, but honest to God, I didn't consider that as an issue when I was watching it. Maybe it's partially because I understand to some degree that the production that went behind the scenes here, how long it probably took to model and render everything that we're seeing on screen. And so there's a part of it, it's like, no, you will appreciate every fucking leaf of that fake plant in the background of this mall because you have no clue what it did to this man's computer to make it happen. But also for people who, aren't super clued in on that sort of thing, I think it still adds a certain, like, dread building over time of, like, I just traveled God knows how long underneath the literal earth and I found a shopping mall. Like, there is enough, I think, to chew on for an average casual viewer to come away absolutely freaked out by what you just watched that really make the series stand on its own. But I think overall, as far as, like, scares and, like, just the ability to walk away feeling more freaked out than you would have otherwise, the series does really, really well. I'm thinking A tier for the oldest view, primarily just because I knew I wasn't going to be able to fully appreciate what was being shown to me here without actively watching its creator talk about the backstory of it and the ultimate narrative that we're supposed to understand. But if it weren't for that, it's, I would say, just about a perfect series from a incredibly talented, phenomenal creator that has other work that will absolutely be appearing in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and put A tier for that. Absolutely check it out. Just a phenomenal series overall. All right, let's do it. Let's go. All right. And we got... Oh, R.O.T. We've got another entry from the East Patch, creators of Angel Hair. That rabbit-based angel analog horror series I talked about last episode that I had said was concluded. They really showed me. To be honest, this is probably just them getting back at me. It's saying that Angel Gabby can get it at, like, the very beginning of that. But, like, she really fucking can, though. So R.O.T. is essentially the story of the Concreta, a satellite space station of sorts that is currently orbiting around a now derelict mining planet. And they have their own fucked up justice system. And you can participate in it.
Due to the scarcity of resources, both finite and renewable, we have no prisons.
So R.O.T. refers to essentially the tenets of this space station's justice system called release, ostracize, or terminate, in which essentially when people are accused of a crime, they're put in front of the entire rest of the space station to plead their case, to have questions asked of them, and then to have viewers like you decide what ultimately happens to them.
You are encouraged to discuss the decision carefully with your peers, be it through the comments or the space station's community chat server.
You can either choose to release them and have them have some kind of life on the space station after the fact, ostracize, in which we send them to the derelict mining planet below to just fend for yourself, motherfucker, or terminate, where essentially we just shoot them out of the fucking airlock. Welcome to space, motherfucker. Bad news, there's lots of it. So essentially how it works is that a video comes out, and this is the person accused, this is what the crime they were accused from, and you can ask them questions that may appear in the video for further information to get an idea of their culpability or just how guilty they are, and then in the next video you can see them respond to those very questions that you asked, and then you can vote, deciding what the ultimate fate of these fictional characters are.
This is your fault! Do you hear me? Every single one of you who voted. You could have decided not to. You power-tripping scum!
Everything that I'm talking about here I am recommending to some degree, but like, R.O.T. is one of those few series where it's like, you guys are gonna want to get in on this one as soon as possible. So R.O.T. is aesthetically porn to me, if I'm gonna be quite honest with you. It's only got a few episodes to its name thus far, and so I don't think I'm gonna put in an S tier for that, but like, Holy shit, is there just so much to like about this? From the aesthetics alone, from the musical choices, from the way it looks, from, I mean, just the premise itself. I do wish that we knew more about the space station itself and some of the lore that's going on behind the scenes there, but like also, it's got like, what, 5 or 6 videos to its name right now, most of which are just following the same formula that, you know, was set up from the very beginning, so it's like, there's really nothing I could be upset about that won't actively be talked about in the future. I think in its current state, I can't necessarily give R.O.T an S tier, even though, you know, I really can't find many things to criticize about it, but I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I just don't think there's enough of it out yet to get like a really fully formed opinion. And also, from what I've seen so far, and from seeing the creators' past work, oh my god, I have no doubt we haven't even seen the beginning of how good this series can be. So I'm gonna say R.O.T is in A tier. If you're wondering why there's so much more blood on my face and the rest of my person, mind your business, dude. Ooh, Kitty Kart 64. So this is not an analog horror series, it's a video game. You can play this right now on your computer, even if it's shit. Well, probably, even if it's shit. But yeah, Kitty Kart 64 was recommended in the last video as well, and I actually got around to playing it when I was incredibly sick with COVID.
I am sick with COVID right now, and I can think of no better time than to play horrifying cat kart games than when I'm actively short of breath and dumb of ass. Let's go.
And high off my ass off of multiple cold medicines, so I think I was in the, like, perfect headspace for this.
I'm in the great mighty poo level. They took me to the Dookie-verse. Shit, literally.
I actually recorded myself playing the entire thing in a little pseudo Let's Play of sorts, and it really just hits home the idea of why I don't do Let's Plays.
Damn, bro, get me more Dayquil. My ass is seeing through the fucking lines of the Matrix. Everybody's playing chess. I'm playing Yahtzee over here.
So Kitty Kart 64 is essentially an analog horror game where you play as, I guess, Kitty, and you're on a cart, and it's for the Nintendo 64. Proper storytelling, complete. What's there to say about Kitty Kart 64? It's really short. It's not very long of a game whatsoever. It's got a couple secrets in there that kind of hint at a darker, more scary past, but since it is like a game with such a limited scope, there's really not a whole lot of story to really dig your teeth into. I think there was some catastrophe that involved the death of numerous kids, but I don't even know if that was in the subtext of the story. That's just an assumption I make about every analog horror thing I get into. Analog horror is very much the spring trap of genres. It's like, you know, even if you don't know it for certain, you just kind of assume a couple kids died. Stylistically, I think the game looks fine. It looks like something you'd see in the time frame. I don't really know if all of the creatures and motherfuckers shown necessarily could have been shown in that same version they're presented on the actual Nintendo 64, but I mean, hey, suspension of disbelief is a powerful drug, bro, so I don't care. I think the areas on display are interesting. I like the glitches that happen within the game as well, but like, again, it's kind of old hat for the genre as well. Like, if you've seen one video game's weird glitch hellscape, you've kind of seen most of them. I think the ending level is really neat. I like the fact that it's just like a dark corridor slash parking lot. I can't tell you the amount of times I've been beaten to death in a parking lot, and the finale of this game is it hit very close to home, and by home I mean my fucking head. Kitty! No, shake your head! Shake your head! No, he can't hurt you if you don't consent! No! I was thinking C tier, but like, that ending is so well animated with watching Kitty get the fucking shit beat out of her that I'm honestly feeling B tier, to be honest with you. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one because it's a very just cut and dry video game. You know, you play as Kitty, you're on a cart, you get beaten to death 64 times. Yeah, it's tale as old as time. I think it was in the Bible, actually. I'm gonna say B tier for Kitty Kart 64. Look at that. Look at that. It's all cats. Who is the fucker from Chezz Kids? Is he a cat? Ooh, another video game-esque one. Super Mario 64, Classified. So this analog horror, much like the Backrooms, is based upon what I believe a green text 4chan post about how every single copy of Super Mario 64 is personalized, and that's why when you play it on an emulator, it feels weird because essentially you're playing someone else's version of that game. For what was ultimately a very limited scope, sort of 4chan creepypasta, I gotta say, what's on display in Super Mario 64 Classified is pretty damn good. The scares are good, the fright going into it is pretty good. The story is a little bit hard to parse, but I think there's enough there to be able to make a couple conclusive jumps about this generative AI that exists within earlier builds of Super Mario 64 and how it desperately wants to die. But overall, the scares on display are like genuinely some of the best fucking things that you could probably do with this. I mean, the entire section where we're just going with Luigi and watching him get closer and closer and closer to just drowning to death. And honest to God, the degree of talent and work on display in creating this series is pretty admirable. Like, everything that the creator did to sell the idea of, like, yeah, this is an earlier version of Super Mario 64. There's an entire devlog episode where, like, it's this, like, tech demo, like, hellscape of sorts, and Mario's walk cycle is entirely different, and some of the sound effects are different too, and it's, like, just little stuff like that that you didn't have to do, but that the effort put into really sells the idea of, like, oh no, we're getting a glimpse into the freaky shit that happened behind the scenes earlier on in the creation of this. That being said, those behind the scenes developer commentaries or devlogs of sorts are kind of distracting and are kind of a double-edged sword because no one's speaking Japanese. It's just American dudes and one British guy, I think, just, you know, chatting behind the scenes.
This is one of 3 snow levels, I think, which I think is a bit much. They should make one of them a desert to balance things out.
I can't say this for certain, but I'm like 99% sure there were a couple Japanese dudes who worked on Super Mario 64. I'm not certain. It could be a couple, could have been all of them, actually. Things I like about it. I think some of the horror and some of the, like, slow, dread-inducing, like, build-up is done very well. The eel from Dire Dire Docks is found dead at the bottom of the lake. That one hurt. But ultimately, while the story itself is a little bit hard to parse at times and does create some very chronological confusion with the way in which its release order was done, I think Super Mario 64 Classified is probably the best possible thing that you could have made from a limited prompt, as every copy is personalized. So I'm gonna say for Super Mario 64 Classified, while not without flaws, I think that there's enough to love and enough to marvel at that I'm gonna say S tier. All right, let's go again. Let's go again. We got fucking Knock 10. I'll be honest. ARGs do nothing for me. For some people, it's really their bread and butter, and they love the mystery that comes along with it, and just how user interactive it can become. That's not me. I'm sorry. I have just never found the interest in doing an ARG. I've never really been, like, really ever compelled to participate in one. I love hearing about them when they're done, like when the whole story is more or less completed. I always enjoy that prospect of it. However, most of the time when I'm going through these series, I'm able to grade on a sort of curve in the sense that, yeah, there's ARG elements that I know I'm not going to engage with, but what is there for viewers to watch? To be able to, like, for casual viewers like myself, for dumbasses like myself, is there enough there without having to participate in the ARG to walk away and feel satisfied or to feel like you really enjoyed it? Not really. Knock 10, as far as I'm understanding, and this is from a lot of, like, external, like, post-research from watching the series, I think it's the story of this underwater research lab that had some kind of catastrophe happen to it, and, like, the computer in charge of it is still sending out SOS materials, as well as, like, hints of the kind of crazy shit that was going on there. And bad stuff happened, and you can find out about it if you go to these websites and decrypt these codes, and I just did not fuck with it. I'm sorry. I really wanted to like this because I think that it's, you know, visually, it's got interesting parts to it. It's been going on forever, so you would hope it would get better over time. And I think, like, the premise of it is interesting. I like the idea of, like, an analog horror or, like, a digital horror story happening, like, essentially via SOS from an underwater research center. That's really interesting. I just don't think that this really hits it in the way that I was hoping for. I was about like 7 or 8 videos in where I just like completely kind of checked out and had to walk away before coming back to it and trying again. And even then it was like, oh no, it's just back to the butchery. It's just more of the same. Trust me, man, I'm considering it. But like, again, some of the visuals are really, really neat. And unfortunately, every time they come up, I'm like, God, I wish everything else was like this. I wish the whole rest of the series had this kind of, you know, dread-inducing sci-fi horror, but, you know, most of it is just the series being like, hey, here's the next clue for the ARG, dickhead, go have fun. Which is fine. Again, if you like that sort of thing, and if you are interested in a very long-standing ARG that's been going on for fucking ever, then you might get a lot out of Noct 10. You might really enjoy the stuff going on there, but personally, I really just did not jive with it in the slightest. And while I think some of the visuals are interesting, and I can tell that there's a lot of well-done editing happening behind the scenes, I don't know. Overall, you really just can't be a passive viewer for Noct 10. It sort of demands a degree of engagement and interaction with its ARG elements that, you know, for casual, dumbass viewers like myself, you know, you're really not going to get a whole lot from it. So I didn't love the series, but I do think that it's worth watching if that kind of thing interests you. Like, if you love ARGs and are looking for another one to go to, this is the one. This is one with a considerable backlog of content to go through that's already been solved to some degree and some mysteries that haven't been yet. And I think it's definitely worth your time if you're interested in that. I'm just not one of them people. So I'm going to say C tier for Noct 10. It's not bad, it's just not for me. We got, ooh, the Blue Channel, THALASIN. So I was actually considering having this as an entry in the last analog horror video, but I ultimately decided against it because it's essentially just one-off video. I mean, yeah, there's another video in the series, but like, that's just music to a blue static background. And then some spooky stuff happens at the end. So, like, there's not really a whole lot there. But, like, I figured that Blue Channel THALASIN was, like, I don't know, a little bit too minimal in its scope to include, but evidently some people disagreed because it was one of the most highly recommended thing to talk about. So who am I to not give the people my illustrious, frequently controversial opinion on things? So for those 2 of you that don't know what the Blue Channel THALASIN is, essentially it's a commercial for this drug that allows you to feel any specific emotion that you need in a given moment.
Emotional stability is required for a functional and healthy mind.
There's fear, there's anger, there's happiness. At the end of it, it advertises THALASIN Plus, which allows you to feel a whole host of emotions that aren't real, or perhaps are beyond the usual spectrum of human emotion. Who else out here getting dorselessness on a Saturday night? Just me? Get well soon. Every time I continue the cycle, I feel a profound sense of dorselessness. But yeah, it's like, it's just a 2-minute video, and it's that, more or less. That's why I didn't include it in the first time, because I just don't think there's a whole lot to really chew on here. It's not bad. I think aesthetically, it really nails the thing it's trying to be, which is like late night infomercial type aesthetic. I think it really does quite well at that. Even when I initially watched it, my initial thought was, man, I wish there was more of this. I wish there was more that I could chew on and, you know, have a more fully formed opinion. But like, I guess that raises the question of what exactly would you end up doing with this series if you were to continue it? I don't know, maybe an episode where it's like, oh yeah, we're recalling THALASIN, but for anyone affected, we'll send you THALASIN Plus, which is even better, you know, thus getting more people to join the dorselessness army. Brothers, rise up. Maybe they reintroduce THALASIN Plus, but like all of the emotions are just envy, so it just makes you, you know, want more THALASIN. What I'm more interested in, like, in its current form, like, could you like overdose on THALASIN, or would it just like make you more of the emotion that you're trying to take? Like, could I like pop 4 fear pills and then go into an escape room? Can I take like 3 anger pills and then go to my custody hearing? Like, is this like, does it stack? does my angry emotion stack on ourselves? Asking for myself. I don't know. I liked THALASIN. I think it works just fine as a one-off sort of thing, but also I wouldn't be upset if there was more in a series along these lines. I wouldn't be upset if there was more, like, installments to build upon this, or even if it was just, like, an anthological series where, like, everyone is advertising weird shit. I don't know. I'm gonna say B tier. It's not bad at all, but for how limited of a series it is, I think that there'd need to be more for me to be able to say, oh yeah, this is, like, really high up their tier. So B tier will do it just fine. I broke my cat combo. Oh, that kind of looks like my cat, to be fair. All right, give me something good. Give me something good. Fuel, fire, that which I desire. Fuck it, I'll just drop the whole thing, I guess. This is Bavar. Boisvert is the story of a dude who's in his basement and he's sad. Is it about COVID? Maybe. Is it about isolationism? Absolutely. Is it fucking astounding to look at? Yeah. Bavar, I think, and I'm gonna get real fucking pretentious about this, but Bavar is a great example of a series that I have such respect for because it's just ultimately something that I would never have created. When I first started watching Bavar, I really didn't know quite what to think about it because some of its earlier videos really kind of range from like really deep, thought-out introspections on the complex of like isolationist and human loneliness and shit posts. Which is not a bad thing, it's just, you know, felt. It's almost difficult to talk about because there's so much I like, but so much of it just needs to be, like, experienced for oneself. Like, this is the kind of art that only the most broken of carbon monoxide detectors can bring you. This is something else. From the rotoscoping, from the way in which it handles like its hand-drawn animation, from just everything on display from its story to just visually how it looks. It is unpleasant to watch at times, and I fucking love that. There were numerous times in which I was watching Bavar and like it felt like the creator was actively uploading certain concepts and ideas to my brain, and then my eyes just had to play catch up afterwards. Does that make sense? Is my carbon monoxide detector fucked up? But I think as far as series that seek to understand like the horrors of loneliness and the frightening shit that happens as a result of that, and like just deep dives into personal depression and how we're able to get ourselves out of that or sink deeper into them. I don't think I've ever seen it done this weirdly or this effectively. I mean, a series dedicated to talking about the deep loneliness that someone feels being in isolation, self-imposed or otherwise, and having to make a constant battle to decide whether he's actually going to be all right and choose between optimistic or the much more realistic pessimism. I wouldn't know anything about that. Like, I look at this and it's like, I feel like the creator just watched a bunch of movies about like, oh, the deep complex of human emotion and depression, and just like, nah, that's not what it's like. Depression and isolation is like falling to the bottom of a giant fucking chasm while manifestations of optimism and pessimisms fight each other, and then they drop a knife into your fucking skull. Which, yeah, but you can't just say that. I don't know, this kind of like nonsensical surrealist horror is so rare to see, and it is even more rare to see it done well. And it's genuinely kind of baffling to me that Bavar exists at all, and that it is as good and as interesting and as unpleasant at times as it is. So I really have no choice but to give it an S tier, in all honesty. I highly recommend the series, but just make sure you're sober when you go into it. S tier. Get in there. Hey, Sins of the Past. Sins of the Past was actually pretty highly requested from the last video, which, you motherfuckers, why do you want to make me feel? This is actually a really phenomenal follow-up to Bavar in the sense of like stories that make me feel deeply uncomfortable with visuals that make me feel deeply unsettled, and just visuals that overall are fucking astounding to look at, in all honesty. Sins of the Past, from what I was able to ascertain, is more or less the story of some dad's daughter gets killed by some other dad, and so that first dad kills that other dad's daughter because therapy is just way too fucking expensive, evidently. And now another daughter fell into like a deep dreamlike trance, and now the other dad is like going into her brain to see what was going on and to confront his sins of the past. And oh, wait a minute. So let's get down to brass tacks. How is the story of Sins of the Past? Hard to understand, and once you understand it, hard to cope with. It's tough, motherfuckers. It made me feel human emotions in a way that I did not want. But also, there's a lot going on in this series that I think is genuinely fucking worth applause. Like, just the spectrum of all the visuals going on here, from like it's literally a grab bag of, like, sometimes it's just data moshed real life images, sometimes it's like fully hand-drawn paper craft stuff, sometimes it's PS1 style era graphics. Like, it runs the full gambit of essentially being just everything, and everything that it attempts to do, it does really, really well. Okay, this is gonna be a fucking, like, ass-backwards insane comparison, but, like, Sins of the Past's visuals kind of reminds me of, like, The Amazing World of Gumball, where there's such a grab bag of, like, different styles and aesthetics going on, but, like, it all meshes really, really well. Like, there's a whole kidnapping dream sequence that looks like it came straight from fucking Tomodachi Life, like one of the nightmares that one of your Miis would have.
All hail the Kaleidoscope.
Sins of the Past is advertised as being Dreamcore, so I guess, you know, in a way that does make sense. I like the star dude, the Netscape Navigator star from episode, like, 2 or 3. I like the cut of his jib, he'd treat me right. The story is incredibly hard to figure out, and is in many ways almost impenetrable to a certain degree. I don't think it's bad, I think it's just, you know, early enough in its run that at this point it requires a lot of logical leaps to fully understand what's going on here, as well as just, you know, the ability to maybe watch a couple explain videos. But overall, like, of the many series I've talked about, few have made me feel as deeply uncomfortable, as heartbroken, and as sad as Sins of the Past has. And, like, that is, it sounds like a criticism, but it's genuinely, like, one of the highest accolades and achievements that an analog horror series could make. Like, there's like a question and answer thing at the end of one of the videos where one of the main characters, who is dead as shit, answers questions about herself, and
I do miss her sometimes. I have company here, but it's never the same. If you see her by some chance, could you say hi for me?
I wasn't fucking crying, dude. That was exhaustion leaving my eyes. But yeah, I'm gonna say A tier for Sins of the Past. I think it's still too early to be able to throw it squarely in S tier, but also there's a lot to like about what's here, even if the story is, well, it's gonna require some heavy lifting on your part, but A tier for them. Look at that A tier. Dude, I gotta start being so much more of a dick. The next one I'm just gonna rank, like, badly just for the fucking hell of it. That's how democracy works. Alrighty, we're running low. Let's see what's next. Let's see if I'm gonna be a total prick about it. We got The Itch. So here's a fun little personal behind-the-scenes fact for you. The original video that I made about the analog horror series was initially supposed to be 25, and that's because The Itch was originally included in them, but I found out it's actually not in chronological order from the rest of the series that it's a part of, so I did not include it. And this time I'm including it because I already made the fucking pushpin thing, so I'm not about to stop. So let's talk about premise. So this evil lab decides to create some kind of pathogen with the hopes of it, like, essentially making people more subservient and passive so that they can appease their evil god, which is an eye monster, apparently. Oh yeah, it's actually a cult. It's not really, like, a science lab. It is a science lab, but it's a cult-run science lab, you know, like all the ones we have in real life. And essentially they wanted to make a pathogen that would allow people to be easily pacified so they could make thralls for their eye god, but as it turned out, in fact, it's actually a fucking bioweapon, and it really wasn't that severe of a thing. See, it's simple. When people get infected by this new bioweapon, they get bumps on their skin, and then those skin bumps explode, and then they infect people when they explode if they're around other people. And then the skin holes that are left over from the bumps, they tell you to kill people and to bathe in their blood because they're really thirsty. And if you don't do that, or if you're, you know, not around a source of blood to bathe yourself in, you explode, just wholesale. And that also infects people. I gotta be honest, the itch disease, despite the fact that it's named after it, is kind of taking a back seat. Like, it's an interesting concept, but like, we've seen this creator work with like pathogen stories in the past with the tangivirus, and you know, while I had my issues with that series, it was always at the forefront. Like, that was the main thing being focused on. With this series, it's pretty clearly just kind of set dressing for future things to come down the road, primarily because of profit.
Hello? Hello? Excuse me, did you hear me?
That's right, Oracle's back, except it's not really Oracle. It's like another version of him that's like 10 times sassier and just a total prick.
Please use the keyboard to properly communicate. I'd rather not read your questionably hygienic mouth.
Like, I thought he was an asshole in the human trial, but like, he was playing a character. Nah, Prophet's just an asshole, just a computerized dickhead.
Oh my one-eyed god. That is such a boring and stupid question. I'm in a computer. What do you think I am? A genie?
And it's funny because he is undoubtedly the best part of this entire series. Like, anytime Prophet is on screen interacting with a human, it's just, he's just so cunty. I love it. He's just so cruel for really no purpose whatsoever, and I fuck with that. I love that.
Sigh. Humans. Fine, I'll hold your hand.
However, it becomes pretty clear by the end of the story that, like, the entire premise, the entire purpose of this story is literally just to get Prophet to be uploaded to the internet so he can fight Oracle. It becomes pretty clear, yeah, this is just set up for a future story down the road between Prophet and Oracle, which is interesting. I do like that, but when you have that in mind, it kind of undercuts a lot of the horror that exists with the Itch. The Itch as well, in the way that it's shown, it's just AI images. Just AI images of a lot of people with what is it called? Trypophobia? Yeah, I read the thing. I did not know that off the top of my head. It's very much just, we hear about a thing, then we see some grotesque images, a computer voice, and eventually Prophet comes around and he's a total dickhead. Prophet, I think, is genuinely the best part about the entire thing. He's just a lot of fun as a character and is fun to watch, but, you know, in a story that is not really supposed to be fully about him, it's kind of funny that he steals the show, more or less. I don't know. Overall, like, it's an interesting watch, but, like, it really is kind of pushed back, more or less, by the fact that it's just kind of set dressing for future episodes that would come down the road. For that, I'm going to go ahead and put it in C tier. If you're looking for a really good series from Vintage 8 that primarily goes around a biohazard or a pathogen, the Tangivirus remains, I think, some of his best work, honest to God. So I'm going to go ahead and put C tier for that, but hey, who knows? Maybe there'll be something else down the road. When Oracle and Prophet finally have their bitch-smacking fight, I'll be there to see it. All right, what do we got next? We got Tri-Red Witness Archives. Oh, this one was also recommended to me by other people, and Tri-Red Witness Archives is almost a little bit hard for me to really talk about because there's some parts of it that I think are really well done, and other parts that just really leave me scratching my head of like, why did you do this? Like episode 1 is one of those episodes where it's like some of the scares are really genuinely unsettling and pretty freaky. Like that scene where like the camera just kind of stalls on like a couple of disembodied ghostly looking faces in the middle of the woods. That's really interesting. That's a really good scare. But it's juxtaposed with some of the laziest fucking screamers I've seen in my life.
Whoa, is that blackface, dude?
I don't know, it's like, there's certain parts here with the background and the backstory that I think are really interesting. The idea of like every 40 seconds, people disappear. And there's this entire network dedicated to trying to figuring out what happened to them and then essentially removing the evidence of that as well, hinting at a deeper conspiracy at the heart of it. Some of the episodes I think are better than others. Like episode 1, I think does an alright enough job at setting up the premise of what's going on here. Episode 2, I think, is an episode in the series for sure. Episode 2, I think, is probably my least favorite of the entire series for kind of 2 reasons. One of which is that of the 4 faces they show at the end for the missing persons report, 2 of them have their last name misspelt. it's the same last name, and both of those characters are directly related to the town's mayor. Like, the mayor who is a titular character in the next episode? It's like a sock puppet show where they tell people how to clean themselves effectively, and then just randomly, at the end, they tell children how to self-harm.
The most important part of all these steps. If you truly want to love yourself, kids, always cut.
I don't know, it's hard to view that as anything other than, dude, you know what would be so fucked up? If we did the Family Guy thing where Meg's like, yo, you gotta cut long ways? Dude, for kid, dude. That being said, I do like some of the visuals on display here. The way that one of the disembodied head moves is really freaky and is really well done. I think like the entire Dreamcast game subplot from the last video in the series that we have so far is really well done. But I think overall, it just really didn't do it for me. I wanted to like this series a lot more than I did. The idea of there being an entire organization dedicated to trying to find missing people in a town where they go missing every 40 seconds is a really neat premise that I was really excited to learn more about. But the execution of it just, you know, ranges from like kind of embarrassing with misspelt last names of very important characters to, you know, actively a little problematic with some of the content going on there. So I don't know. Tri-Red Witness Archives really did not do it for me. If you want to, check it out. I think that it might have something for some people out there, and if you disagree, please let me know. But ultimately, I did not love it in the way that I was hoping I would, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in C tier. I think it does have parts of it that are worth enjoying and that are deserving of compliment, but also it's kind of juxtaposed with some really unpleasant things that it's really hard to commiserate the two existing within the same series, so sorry. Oh, brother. Needle Mouse VHS. Actually, I'll just show this to you. So, I couldn't find really any good images, like, of the logo from this, so I just took this picture of Needle Mouse looking cunty with her arms crossed because it made me laugh a lot when I first saw it. So what's there to be said about Needle Mouse? When this was recommended to me, it was more or less pitched as Sonic.exe but good, which sounds oxymoronic in a lot of cases, and very much was the case for this one. I don't want to be too mean to Needle Mouse VHS because, you know, ultimately there is still good stuff about it, and I think that, you know, it's still someone's creative work, but, like, it just does not hit the mark for me whatsoever. So, as I understand the story, there's a girl named Sarah, and she's got a pretty cool, close-knit group of friends who kill her, because it's just something to do, I guess. And then she dies in the Yamcha pose, and they unceremoniously bury her, and then, like, I guess fucking 40, 50 years later, a Sega of America headquarters is built on top of her gravesite, and so she decides to haunt a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog, and she's really mad about it, which I don't really get, because, sister, you could have been Binks. And then Sarah, via some convoluted means, gets revenge on her old friends by bringing them into the Sonic the Hedgehog game, a la Sonic.exe, kinda, but we never really see the way in which she tortures them. They're just kind of, like, still characters. Also, this is an aside. This is, like, not actually, like, has to do with the series at all. But, like, the wiki article about Sarah describes her like a fucking creep. Like, brother, do I gotta get a trusted adult? What the fuck are you doing here? What? I was gonna watch season 2, but apparently it's not canon anymore, and I don't think the creator's happy about it, so hey, you don't have to tell me twice. I won't watch more, okay? I really don't see the way in which Needle Mouse VHS was that great of a story, or like was the better version of Sonic.exe. Like, yeah, it does provide a little bit more depth to what was ultimately a very flawed creepypasta, but like, it doesn't really avoid any of the things that made it a bad creepypasta to begin with either. If anything, I think the backstory kind of makes less sense overall, and I really don't quite get it, to be quite frank with you, but if it's not obvious, I did not care for Needle Mouse VHS. I think in regards to finding ways of remixing and adapting and creating derivative works of Sonic.exe, others have approaches to it that have worked quite a bit more effectively, and without all the weird, creepy shit to do with its main character. a voluptuous Asian woman. Like, I almost want to get a spritz bottle for you motherfucker. Like, fuck a spritz bottle. I need a gun. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in D tier. Again, check it out if you're interested. It is still a remix and a derivative work based on Sonic.exe, so if you're into that, then it is certainly an interesting addition to check out, but also, it just was not for me. Oh boy! Shipwrecked 64. This one also came highly recommended to me among a couple other analog horror video games, but I thought Shipwreck 64 aesthetically was the most interesting looking, so I picked that one. And I played it!
Fuck it, yes, you can have access to everything. Excuse me?
It's actually very humorous, the way that it worked when I initially played through this game. I didn't see really any scary shit whatsoever, because I didn't realize that in order to find the scary stuff, you had to fail the minigames. And me? Lose?
Dude. Oh my, clip that. Clip that.
But alas, I went back and I actually failed the minigames, and I unlocked the scarier parts of the game, and I gotta say, fuck that noise. Holy shit.
Oh my god! Jesus Christ! Alright, I take it back. I'm afraid of beavers.
I don't think I've ever played a horror game that looks like this that has made me feel this much dread actively playing. Like, even in the sections of the game in which there were no monsters around, like, holy shit. Oh my god!
I do kind of wish there was a few, like, visual differences here and there.
Oh my god. Okay, I gotta turn a fucking light on. I gotta turn 2 lights on. Holy shit. Shipwreck 64 is so well done because it really lulls you into a false sense of security with its stylistic aesthetic design. I mean, you start it up and you're like, oh, this is like, you know, Nintendo 64-ass graphics. There's polygonal creatures and anthropomorphic animals running around being sexualized. I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me. And so then later, when you're actively playing the game and you suddenly see, oh, wait, no, whoever made this is a really good 3D modeler. Let's talk about the good and bad of Shipwreck 64. The good is that it is so well made and so beautifully captures the dread-inducing fear that one would feel playing through a horror game that, you know, presents itself as a Nintendo 64 era game and then bitch slaps you with some of the best 3D modeling work you've ever seen, put into the most frightening creatures imaginable. However, that being said, in regards to ultimate gameplay, oh my god, there is so much shit to remember between Shakespeare codes, Mozart codes, Beaver speak, so many different codes around the entire map, and then they start adding fucking time limits to things as well. It becomes a clusterfuck fast. I kinda wish there were times in which it was a little bit more linear, and it wasn't just actively running around, hitting on computers, trying to find the next thing. Yeah, I was engaged the whole time I was playing it, and I fucking hated whole sections of it because I was running for my life, also trying to decipher the fucking Konami code. Overall, I think Shipwreck 64 in regards to what it sets out to be, which is an analog horror style lost media horror game, is so well done and executes on its horror and in its scarier parts so well. It's just kind of slogged down on occasion by, let's just say, not a lot of variation with its puzzle solving and a lot of lore that, unless someone's really taking extensive notes as they play, which I cannot stress this enough, you should not be doing for lore-related things.
Attempting to explain his theories to...
Now, mind you, I didn't finish the entire game. I actually watched a couple explain videos, like, after I got about halfway through, just because of the production of this video. So if you're interested in me playing more of it, I might stream it on the channel next month. Let me know if you want to hear me cry like a bitch as I play as a beaver boy for like 2 hours sometime next month. Dude, if somebody reports this, oh shit. But overall, as far as horror experiences go in video games, Shipwreck 64 is probably the peak of the genre, if I'm being so honest with you. Genuinely freaked the fuck out of me to the point where I almost feel regretful for offering to stream it on the channel sometime next month, so I hope nobody actually wants to see that. So, S tier for Shipwreck 64. Phenomenal thing. Squeaks, you did an amazing job, you and your team. I don't want to play it ever again. We got the Boiled One phenomenon. The Boiled One phenomenon is, I think, a really great masterclass to show just how important build-up is, and how in a lot of cases, the build-up is almost the best part of something. Building up for a horror story is a lot like foreplay, in the sense that it's a lot of people's favorite things, and if you do it badly, the whole experience is gonna fucking suck. Get it? Fuck you. And I think that the build-up in the Boiled One phenomenon is really, really good. They take their sweet time before they show this red bastard, and when they finally show him on screen, yeah, it's pretty good. Dr. Nowhere's the creator of this, and I think he shares my sort of, shall we say, exhaustion and fatigue for when it comes to how people can latch on to certain horror characters and use them in so many, like, slop content farm-related nonsense that they kind of cheapen their overall horror factor. Think Slenderman, or, a better example would be Siren Head via Trevor Henderson, or Cartoon Cat, or, like, any number of the creatures that he's creating that, you know, you just see in God knows how many stupid-ass, weird content farm videos, just slop. And unfortunately, I do think that seeing the Boiled One and so many, you know, other memes and nonsense beforehand kind of cheapened the overall experience of it, which is an unfortunate part of, you know, putting your artwork out on the internet, is that sometimes people are just gonna be doing silly shit with it, and it can change the way people interact with your original work. A good example of that is the fact that I could not find this fucking video without actively having to find another video of someone talking about it and linking to it. I don't know if the YouTube algorithms is just that fucked up with its search feature, but like, I legitimately could not find the Boiled One phenomenon without actively going to a secondary source, which is really unfortunate, because again, the reason I make these videos is because I want people to check out all these different derivative works. Even if I don't like them that much, they're still worth supporting the initial creators, because these are underrated as hell, and seeing something that gets big like this ultimately be pushed down in the search results, you know, for your film theories or for your this scary monster does this type videos, it's really unfortunate to see. But back to the actual video as it stands. Again, I really do like the buildup of it, how like there's so many precautions that need to be taken in order to actually like listen to this motherfucker and just see him on screen, like between like having earplugs in to they're reversing his speech so that hopefully it doesn't happen. I can't tell you the amount of times I've watched horror stories. It's like, yeah, this is a class 15 cognito hazard which causes people to shit themselves to death the moment they see it, and is such a horrific thing it's been banned in every country from rebroadcasting. Anyways, here it is, check it out. So seeing that like, oh no, we're actively doing a lot to ensure that people aren't actively like fucking annihilated by this thing is a really neat thing. I love that as a concept. I think that that kind of buildup really does a lot of great world building and just makes for a better story overall. But what did I think about the video overall? It was fine. I think it's good. I like the design of the Boiled One. I think that there's not really anything in the video that I find objectionable or I think that could have been done, you know, differently. I think the thing I like the most about the Boiled One phenomenon is that now I'm aware of Dr. Nowhere's work and just how good of a fucking artist they are, and it's rare that you see essentially like another Trevor Henderson come out of nowhere, making really interesting and unique monster designs and sharing them with the world, like so early on too, that honestly, like, even though I didn't like adore the video itself, like being able to be introduced to its other content, I think more than makes up for any of the issues I've had with it. So I think I'm gonna put the Boiled One phenomenon in A tier. I didn't think it was moving mountains or anything, but also having something that is good and is also a gateway to an artist's other incredibly talented derivative works is, I think, good enough for me, honestly. So go check out the Boiled One phenomenon if you can fucking find it on the YouTube search, and check out Dr. Nowhere's other stuff, because genuinely a phenomenal talent. We got the biggins here. We got the, oh, it's been decided for me. I actually got it with my foot. Oh my god. We got White Stag Education. Wow, White Stag Education takes full advantage of the setting that it's in. As I was watching this, I literally said to myself, finally, outdoor horror done really well. It immediately nails the aesthetic of not only like being safe on the trails and the kind of broadcasting that would come out around this national park and the weird shit going on there. I really can't say that I can think of any other analog horror series I've watched on here that have an entire section where a park ranger sings with puppets and a banjo. It does it really fucking well, too.
Remember that story from way back when? If you can't recall, let me tell it again.
Ranger Luke's got some pipes, holy shit. I like the drug that like gives you foresight for the future. Could have planned for a lot of arguments better that way. I like the fact that Puppet Show isn't like actively like in lore like an evil thing. It's like legitimately trying to warn children about the overarching threat in the forest, which is the strangers. These, I guess, proto-furries, you would call them. That just kind of run around whistling and trying to eat people and occasionally getting their shit rocked.
Always remember, strangers have no regard for your well-being. They aren't like us.
I like the final video in the series, I think the best, because it's like, hey, so welcome to your new job as a park ranger here. Also, sorry, it's actually the Men in Black. Get a gun and start blasting. I thought that was really great. I think Ranger Craig is a fucking beast, and he's my king, and I want nothing but good things for him, even though he was about to walk straight into the fucking river at the very beginning of that video. If I were to use a word to describe White Stag Education, I would probably say fun. Just a very, very fun series to watch. A very, like, it's nice to have, like, an analog horror that you watch and you can just tell the people making it were having so much fucking fun doing it, because it's infectious. It genuinely makes you enjoy it a lot more as well. And that's very much the case for White Stag Education. I don't think it's a perfect series, mind you. I think that there's some plot points that are brought up that really just never get expanded upon. Like, there's something in the middle, like, underneath the forest, and it's, like, you know, shown like evil sock monster, so, like, there's some kind of eldritch abomination that maybe the strangers are worshipping or they're coming from, and it's just kind of not really expanded upon at all. The drug is only, like I said, like, it's essentially just meant to be a plot device to show, like, the scary things that children are dreaming about at night and then pointing at future things. But, like, in its current form, it does kind of leave you wanting a little bit to know, you know, what else is in this world. I don't know. That's almost like the opposite of an insult when you get down to it. Like, yeah, my main issue with this thing is that there's not more of it. But ultimately, yeah, White Stag Education, just a beautiful, just a beautiful breath of fresh air in the analog horror scene that I think really nails the thing it's trying to do, which is be a folksy, fun, and really, really scary deep dive into the nightmare creatures that live in the forest. So, I'm gonna say A tier. Nah, fuck it, we'll say S tier. White Stag Education, I talked myself into it. Feel good about yourself. Really running the full gambit of how to do a national park analog horror, but it lives in the static. That's a terrible way to hold that. Holy shit. You know, it's really only after I'm actively, like, reviewing 6 of the things that he's made, but, like, there really is kind of a sort of weird, comforting aesthetic to Vintage Aid's work, where a lot of his videos kind of follow a similar formula, at least aesthetically, of, like, text on the screen, oftentimes followed up by maybe text-to-speech voices or some very limited voice acting, but, like, it's really interesting to have someone who's made so many analog horrors that I can say, yeah, this is his style, and every time I see it, I'm like, oh, okay, I know this is going to be of good quality. Like, even if I don't end up liking it, I know there's going to be something out of it to enjoy, so It Lives in the Static is really no different. The basic premise of It Lives in the Static is this dude moves into a house, and he finds all these tapes and floppy disks from the previous tenant, And the previous tenant is a guy who befriends a spooky TV monster who loves to eat people and can kind of tell the future and is helping this guy get his life back on track in exchange for eating live chickens and then eventually people. Have you ever seen The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy? You know, the one where Voltaire plays the fucking evil meteor from out of the sky? Where he plays the evil brain. Brains, I won't lie. I need the brains to zombify. And if at first they think it's strange, well, won't think twice once I've eaten their brains. I got a little carried away there, I apologize. Essentially it's that, but it's a TV, and he loves to eat things. Chickens, eventually people. It's just, you know, kind of a nice symbiotic relationship we got going on there. But unfortunately, as it turns out, the evil TV monster man actually does know our main character, Randall, because Randall was a part of, like, a contractor, like, construction firm that had very shoddy workmanship and was kind of directly responsible for a school falling in on itself and killing a lot of kids. Well, the TV monster was actually the father of one of those kids, and when he killed himself, he became the TV monster, so now this is like his convoluted plot to get back at Randall and all his friends because he starts eating people that were directly involved within that same company, and Randall's gonna be one of the people, and he's like, if you don't let me eat you, I'm gonna eat your son, and he's like, no, don't do that. Randall, upon finding out about this grand scheme, is like, cool, where's my bat? And then his life is great, and he's like, I'm living the dream, I met a nice lady, I got another kid now via proxy of her, I got full custody of my kid, you know, life is really good. And then as it turns out at the end, the TV monster comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna eat your kid. And then he does, and he eats his kid, and Randall's like, no! And the TV monster's like, you want to join him? I'll eat you too. And Randall's like, I guess. And then Randall gets eaten by the TV monster, and God, I should do a recap channel. I'm fucking great at this. And then it ends with the original guy from the very beginning who, let's be honest here, most viewers probably fucking forgot about at this point, experiencing the same TV monster. He's like, you know, I could probably make you a deal too if you wanted.
I have something I'd like to say to all those watching, to all those who will be watching.
I don't know, it's kind of corny, it's kind of silly, it's a little hokey. It's not my favorite thing that Vintage 8 has created. I think, overall, I like the vibe, and it is just as compelling as the rest of his work, where you will find yourself becoming more and more engaged with what's happening. But also, I don't think it sticks the landing as well as it possibly could. What I think probably would have worked better, personally, is if the TV monster refused to eat Randall at the end. If he's like, no, now you gotta live in this world without your kid, you fucker. And then Randall can, you know, essentially just have his life fall apart for the second time as a direct result of his hubris against this TV monster. I don't know, having him join the TV, and his son at the end, even though it's like some kind of like static hellscape, I don't know, it feels a little bit too happy for what is the ultimate, like, premise of the story, which is finding vengeance against those that have wronged you. So, I don't know, it's not Vintage 8's best work, but also, like, you know, it's still interesting, it's still worth a watch. It's something that I think I probably would have done differently in a couple stylistic decisions and sound design choices, but also, you know, I can't really find many faults with it regardless of that. It's just, you know, I think he's made much better stuff, and this is fairly middling in regards to most of it. But yeah, ultimately, I think it stands up on its own fairly well and delivers on a lot of really good drama that, even though it doesn't necessarily stick the landing at the very beginning, is still worth a fun watch. So I'm gonna say B tier for It Lives in the Static. We have Valle Verde. This was also very highly recommended via the last video. And what the fuck did you guys make me watch? Valle Verde is weird. It's like halfway active scary video game by way of interesting AI that's acting up, and also prophetic doombringer for the end times and the Neolithic gods of destruction that exist within. It's very well made. I was never disinterested watching it. Did I get a lot of what was going on? No, but oh my God, was it nice to look at. It really is kind of a testament to see just how good like analog horror video game, or like really just video game horror in general has come, in the sense that we're able to get works like this that are fairly underground when, like, just a couple of years ago, this would have dominated the internet. Like, fucking Ben drowned so this could swim. What? But did I like the series? Yeah, I loved it. From what I've seen so far, I don't really understand a whole lot of what's going on here, but there's enough interesting visuals and just really kind of humorous parts going on that I think there's a lot to enjoy about it. Like in the very first episode, when the guy gets to town and he meets the mayor's like, "Hey, have 100 gold coins so you can start off." And then immediately he's like, "Nah, actually, fuck you. I'm putting you in crippling debt." But even though, like, I think it's still way too early in its creation to get a full idea of what's going on with the story, from what is there, there's a lot to love. There is so much interesting things with its visuals happening in every single episode that, like, genuinely, it's a feast for the eyes. Like, I know I've said that about a couple other ones here, but like, oh yeah, there's a lot of really good things to look at. With this, it's like boundary pushing. Vale Verde is like, every time you think, oh, there's no possible way the series can top what it just did, it pulls out some shit like this. And then you think, oh wow, that was really well done, but certainly it can't do better than that. Think again, fuckface! And you're like, oh, the third impact? I've seen that before, you know, certainly there's no other depictions of world-ending creatures coming down and destroying large swaths of the— You dumb fuck. At one point, Jesus becomes animated, and he just hands you divine intervention as an item, and you can use it on the seraphic fucking monster, and it allows you to go to a new location where you can talk to the Pope. I feel like somebody injected me with heroin prior to going to Sunday school. If this seems frenetic and all over the place, and like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, well, that's a little bit like what watching this series is like. Just incredible, beautiful spectacle with a story that is so difficult to wrap your head around that you really can only make the most far-bounding leaps to draw conclusions of what's going on here. Obviously, there's a very deep Judeo-Christian undertone going on here with all the imagery. Jesus has a cameo, for fuck's sake. Yeah, it might have something to do with religion. I don't know, Vale Verde, it's such a fun watch for a series that makes so little sense to me right now. And I genuinely really look forward to whatever happens in the future. Incredibly underrated series as well. Like, does not have the kind of eyes on it that it definitely deserves. Highly recommend you go check it out, if for no other reason than the fact that there's so much to check out. I'm gonna say A tier. I'll put it in S tier when I understand what the fuck's going on. We've got Project Britannica. Speaking of weird, Project Britannica, really fucking weird. Project Britannica is essentially the story of like alternate history boats. What if the Titanic didn't sink? What if the Lusitania did? Wait, I think the Lusitania actually did sink, IRL. What if the Titanic movie was about the Lusitania? There you go. Y'all ever read, like, the Leviathan series by Scott Westerfield? I read it when I was a very, very much younger man, when I was still happy. And it kind of gives me the same vibe as this, where I don't know if the intention behind the series is ultimately, like, large man-made constructions being powered by eldritch abominations, but, like, it's a neat concept, and it kind of seems like that's where this is going. Jack G Animations does some genuinely really phenomenal stuff with this. It's a weird series, don't get me wrong, but it's a series that fully embraces its weirdness that I kind of love it. When I talk about how like analog horror is truly like every man's genre, you can do and bring to it whatever you like, this is a great example of that. This is a guy who loves two things, 3D modeling and boats. Stylistically, the series looks very good. There's the occasional time in which, like, you can really tell, like, oh, this is just a 3D modeled, like cityscape, or this is very clearly fake. But most of the stuff on screen is still so well done and so well modeled that, like, you're able to forgive a lot of that. So something that I can't give the series an S tier for, but that I almost kind of wish I could, is that it found a way to innovate on the Rickroll. One of the episodes starts off with a Rick Astley music video. Like, you don't see many people innovating on fucking early 2000s internet memes, and like, legitimately, this is really impressive. Also, fuck you. Project Britannica, I think, is like one of the perfect encapsulations of why I love analog horror so much, because in no other genre could you have an entire scene in which the camera slowly pans out from just a desolate room to reveal the fact that Titanic is still in existence and currently in port, all set to Fleetwood Mac's Little Lies. This is a degree of peak I didn't think was possible. Did I understand the story of Project Britannica? Don't ask me that. Did I love the aesthetic and watching Project Britannica? Absolutely. Sometimes you just give little treats to your eyes, and that, in my opinion, is Project Britannica. And hey, for anyone willing to actually engage with the lore going on here more so than just, oh my god, is that Fleetwood Mac? I think you can find a lot to enjoy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Project Britannica in the strange liminal space between A and B tier. It's not bad. It's very, very entertaining to watch. However, I'll be honest, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching half of the time, but in its current form, I think that that's the most fitting place for it, and as we learn more about the world that is being shown to us, I'm certain that that rating will change to be higher, so check it out. All right, we got... Oh, no one saw this one coming. The Backrooms. So the Backrooms is an interesting entry here, because when I went into it, I fully expected to be a contrarian dickhead about it. You see, this is something that I've noticed has been happening on the internet recently, is that a lot of people have been trying to give this, or spin this narrative that, like, the Backrooms were ruined by putting monsters in it, and by having it be this big spectacle, when in reality it was supposed to be this, like, incredibly existential deep dive into the isolation and the horrors that come along with being alone in a place with somewhat similar sights, smells, and sounds, but tortured forever by having no one else there but your own company and being alone with your thoughts and regrets of the past. But like, I went back and I reread the fucking green text original shitpost they put on 4chan, and the literal last fucking sentence is,
God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you.
Monsters were always a part of the Backrooms. What the fuck are you people talking about? My cat just walked in here and she immediately sat in my office chair, so now it feels like I'm acting in front of a director. So if I appear more nervous than I was prior to, there's a lot of pressure on me right now. But yeah, monsters were always a part of the Backrooms. So I don't know what the fuck these people have been smoking, that it was some kind of bastion for human existential, like, dread. That's a part of it, yeah, but there were always gonna be freaks in there. Gotta make a new version called the Freak Rooms, where it has no monsters and the real freak is you. I think the Backrooms is as close to an analog horror triumph as you can, like, possibly create. I mean, it's one thing to make a series based on a green text, as we have seen with Super Mario 64, but it's another to actively create one and then have your canon that you created sort of be like the most accepted version of it around. When I say Kane Pixels more or less has created the modern day mythos of what the Backrooms are, it's not hyperbolic. I know I said it in the Super Mario 64 one, where like, this is probably the best thing that you could have created with this limited prompt, and like, the Backrooms is exactly that as well. From such a limited prompt of what the space looks like, what's inside of it, and the horrors therein, I think that everything Kane decides to create with this series and then like expands upon by his own creativity is perfect. All the weird geometry that we discover in the series, the weird rooms where there's just fucking traffic signs sticking out of the ground, this large apartment complex of sorts that kind of makes no sense whatsoever, to in the newer videos where the guy just walks around weird industrial office looking spaces. Like, there was never a point where I was like, oh, you're kind of reaching there, or oh, well, that wouldn't actually be in the Backrooms, you know. I'm a frequent connoisseur of the liminal space genre, and you wouldn't see that. No, that never happens. It's just like everything that you see on screen makes perfect sense. But there's a deeper story that exists here too when it comes to async and this, you know, government agency that discovers the Backrooms by complete coincidence and decides, nah, we can work with this. living spaces, storage, a fucking food hall. Yeah, dude, we don't gotta build it. It's fine for me. I will say having the live action portions for the series is definitely neat, and I don't disagree that that was a nice addition. At times, they really do feel unnecessary. Like, did we really need to see this prior to going directly to the Blender version of things? Like, yeah, it's a nice addition, but also it's like, if we were just gonna go straight back into Blender, why go through the effort to begin with? But even then, that's a pretty fucking simple criticism to have with it. Honest to God, I struggle to find anything bad to say about the Backrooms. I think that it is absolutely Kane Pixel's flagship series and is one of the best things ever created when it comes to the analog horror series. I do have a couple questions about it though. Like, in the third found footage video, he looks up and he sees the night sky. Does that imply, like, is that just more ceiling that's just so high up with lighting fixtures that it looks like stars? Or, like, does the Backrooms have an outer space? And what would the outer space of the Backrooms even look like? What kind of weird fucking, like, planetary geometry would be going on there? Why can some people no-clip out of reality through one place, but be unable to no-clip back out of that? Why is it, like, essentially a one-way ticket? That'd be interesting to know. And it's funny to ask those questions and then to have the series actively focus on other things that seem less important but are still interesting. I mean, I don't think that there's a greater sentiment to say just how good the series is than the fact that there was a 9-minute video discussing the fucking lighting fixtures from the Backrooms. And I sat through the whole thing entranced. I loved it. So yeah, this should probably come as a surprise to nobody, but the Backrooms is an easy S tier. There you have it, my analog horror tier list of the primarily user-recommended analog horrors here. And for those who watched the first video, you know what's next. I decided to make another analog horror all of my own. But I got good news and I got bad news. The bad news is that this is not a continuation of the story that I began in the last video, the Jay Walker Investigations tape. Not to say that I'll never revisit that world. Hard to say. I don't have any plans of it currently, but never say never. The good news is that this is an entirely new analog horror that I made just for this video. And I hope you enjoy.
3 man-made machines, each destined for the heavens above. Voyager 1, tasked with documenting the breathtaking sights of our galaxy's gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, and Saturn's largest moon, Titan. Voyager 2, not unlike its sibling, would travel to our solar system's distant ice giants, Uranus and Neptune. And finally, Voyager 3, with perhaps the boldest mission of all, leaving our galaxy. Born from the mind of renowned astrophysicist Dr. Norman LeBrier, Voyager 3's mission was simple: travel beyond the sun's pesky radiation into neighboring solar systems to take a peek. Dr. LeBrier's hope was that this endeavor might help reignite the public's interest in space travel, as well as answer the age-old question of, are we alone in the universe? During the month of September 1977, the 3 probes were sent into the stars above, each tasked with bringing the far reaches of space to our own living rooms. Years would pass, and in time, Voyager 1 and 2 would project back the fruits of their labor, Earth's distant neighbors as we had never seen them before. But while Voyager 1 and 2 were a resounding success, Voyager 3's fate would be far less triumphant. In order to conserve power for the near 20-year trip across the stars, Voyager 3 was set to a low power mode, only transmitting the bare necessities to the scientists back on Earth. Dr. LeBrier's intentions were to fully activate the probe upon its final approach into interstellar space. Yet as the final Voyager crossed into the dark unknowns of the heavens above, it would never awaken. Only a few years after Voyager 3 would have turned on, NASA announced that the probe was unresponsive to any and all attempts to activate it. Due to either a mechanical issue or an internal glitch in its system, Voyager 3 never left sleep mode, drifting aimlessly into the farthest corners of creation, slumbering among the stars forevermore. Disgraced by the failure, Dr. LeBrier and many members of his staff left NASA shortly after, under what the agency described as restructuring.
Begin audio transcript. My name is Colonel Glenn Galloway, and I'll be performing your outgoing interview today. Please state your name and occupation for the record.
Norman LeBrier, astrophysicist and assistant space operations officer to the Voyager project. Is Is this really necessary?
I'm afraid so. Anytime a rank 7 or higher government employee chooses to resign from their post, an exit interview must take place to ascertain said individual's current mental state and likelihood of becoming a threat to national security.
Ah, so you're trying to see if I'm a flight risk.
I assure you these kinds of protocols are typical, and rarely, if ever, do the subjects interviewed qualified as a risk. I have no reason to believe that you'll be any different.
Let's hope not. Please, continue.
Dr. LeBrier, it is my understanding that your resignation is coming as a direct result of the Voyager failure. In fact, in your official resignation letter, I see you specified your leaving was due to, quote, recent empirical truths. Is it fair to say that this is in reference to the third probe not becoming operational?
No.
Pardon me?
I said no. You're wrong.
Am I to believe, then, that your resignation is not an outcome of the Voyager program?
No, that's true. You're wrong about it being a failure.
I'm afraid I don't understand. You and your team are on record describing the mission as such. As far as most of the federal government is concerned, we just spent $865 million to shoot a sleeping satellite into the night sky. You want to elaborate on how that's not a cut-and-dry failure?
Because we had to say that. Had to say that it didn't turn on. Had to call it a failure. Better than the alternative. Or so I thought.
Are you implying that your team's official story is inaccurate?
It was pure fiction. There was no glitch. Nothing went wrong.
Just to be clear, you're saying that
Voyager 3 was and is operational.
Is this a... Dr. LeBrier, I'm going to be very blunt here. If you're implying that you and your team have been lying to the federal government regarding the status of Voyager 3, you and each co-conspirator will be guilty of perjury and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Do I make myself clear?
Crystal.
So then why would you and your team claim the satellite was a failure in one breath, then contradict that claim in the next?
Because it doesn't matter anymore. Throw me in front of whatever kangaroo court you feel is appropriate. I'm done lying, done trying to insulate this world from the realities we discovered.
Okay. Given the nature of this admission, and since it's now clear that you've been lying to us for the past 5 years, I'm going to need you to provide an updated sequence of events regarding Voyager 3. Keep in mind that nothing you say here is protected, and we reserve the right to...
I fully understand the consequences, Colonel.
Then continue.
As I said, there was no technical glitch. My team had been monitoring Voyager 3 for nearly 2 decades. Reading and sending diagnostics, making minor course corrections, ensuring the integrity of its internal telemetry. The probe finally exited the heliosphere, finally broke free from our solar system. The signal was sent to initialize all primary functions.
And this was successful?
Completely. In an instant, we were given a striking view of the worlds outside of ours. Countless stars blanketing the distant horizons. Clusters of planets, solar systems, and galaxies far closer than we had ever imagined. It was brilliant. Like slipping between the spaces of creation itself. The other 2 probes were achievements in and of themselves, but this was unlike anything I or the rest of NASA had ever seen. We were pioneers, the first to gaze at this stretch of reality. It was such a profound accomplishment. Easily made the last 2 decades of waiting worth it.
If it was such a success, why lie?
Because, as you know, Voyager 3's mission wasn't just to take photos of distant nebula and galaxies. It was to enter another solar system, to gaze into the Milky Way's estranged brethren, and to see if
we are alone in the universe.
Correct. That's all anyone really cared about. I could rant and rave about all the revolutionary data Voyager 3 was sending back, but the public cares little for innovations in radiation-repellent rocket hulls or remote laser transmissions. And while our higher-ups might be reticent to admit it, there was only one real way of ensuring the space program's continued existence: finding distant life.
And were you successful in this endeavor?
That is a far more difficult question to answer than you realize.
Well, I insist you do so anyway.
When Voyager 3 went online, we were made aware of numerous other solar systems within just a few years' travel. Some were close enough to simply gaze into whilst traveling towards another. It was our hope to survey the contents of at least 48 solar systems over a 5-year flight plan.
That seems ambitious.
It was, but the threat of your entire agency being defunded was quite motivating.
What were the results?
The results were conclusive, to put it plainly. Of the 48 solar systems we documented, every single one had an Earth-like planetoid.
What do you mean Earth-like?
I mean like Earth. Not tidal-locked, appropriate distance from a neighboring star. Yes, their geographies and natural climates differed drastically from our own, but initial data showed great promise.
So were you successful? Did any of these other Earths contain alien life?
No. Not anymore.
Not anymore? What do you mean by that?
I mean that every planet we surveyed had at one point been able to sustain life. Many of them did, playing host to what one might consider advanced civilizations. Voyager 3 gave us an unparalleled view of distant worlds, societies, not too dissimilar from our own. Similar architecture, crop-rearing practices, hydroelectric capabilities. It was like looking at a mistranslated version of human history. Wholly different from anything we'd call human, but built on the same societal foundations that we take for granted today.
And yet there was no life. I don't understand. How can you know that?
Because they destroyed it. We did not find life, Colonel. Merely the horrific absence of it. Pockmarked landscapes, annihilated by nuclear fire. Worlds choked by famine and plague. The once verdant green of a healthy ecosystem poisoned beyond the point of no return. Weather patterns, at one time no different from our own, twisted and exacerbated into worldwide droughts, or even second ice ages.
Which planet was this?
All of them! Every single one we surveyed, all dead!
What?
Planet after planet, picture after picture, each told some version of the same inevitable story. Entire worlds, civilizations, species so far removed from one another that they likely weren't even aware of the other's existence. All suffering the same fate, each time ending in cataclysm.
I fail to see why you would keep this revelation from the rest of the world. I'll ask again, why lie?
Because we learned the truth. None of those planets had a comprehensive space program. Some had the basic infrastructure for one, but none were advanced enough to do as we did, to peek into other solar systems. They were isolated, and yet they all ended the same way. Dying in darkness and ignorance. And therein lies the truth, Colonel. A universal constant, written in the tapestry of countless dead worlds. For years, our kind looked up to the stars and envisioned utopias far removed from the moral failings of humanity. Free from dogma, from prejudice, from tribalistic infighting. We perceived our own personal failings as wholly unique to our species, as human flaws. When in reality, there's nothing unique about us. When we mapped the geographies of destroyed epicenters, studied the remains of each planet's apex species, and picked up the final transmissions of long-gone civilizations, they were hardly different from our own. Yes, their languages, physiology, and architecture were far from what you or I might call human, but that perpetual selfishness, that capacity to destroy, to kill, to drive oneself to extinction over nothing but a difference of opinion. Why, it was like looking into a carnival mirror. A twisted, sinister reflection. But still us. And you ask me why I lied? Why I chose to leave this position in disgrace? Because, Colonel, the alternative was telling the world that our own destruction is not only inevitable, it is predestined. Our fate is quite literally written in the stars, and being the messenger of that fate, I couldn't. None of us could.
So then why now? Why renege on your original story?
Because it's a foolish thought, perhaps even a wholly futile one. But I believe there may be some slim possibility that we could divert from this course. Maybe we could use the lessons we learned from Voyager 3 and stop ourselves from becoming just another floating graveyard in the ether. If people know the truth, maybe we could prevent it. Prevent what seems to be inevitable.
I see. Well, I believe I've heard everything I need to. Dr. LeBrier, I'll be submitting a request to the DoD to revoke your security clearance before the end of the day. You'll no longer be authorized to set foot on government property or contact any current or previous members of your team.
Wait, what? Why would you?
Furthermore, it is my opinion that your current mental state disqualifies you from being released into the general public at this time. I'm referring you to our Groom Lake facility for a more detailed mental health screening and psychological counseling. The contents of this recording will be sent to your assigned mental health physician and promptly filed away for internal record keeping.
No, you can't do that. Look, I accept any and all punitive actions, but you cannot let this be in vain. You have a moral obligation to inform the public.
I have a moral obligation to keep this country safe. Do you have any idea the kind of public outcry releasing this would cause? The administration has enough issues on its plate without adding a rioting populace to it.
There's no other way. This is going to get out someday. It needs to.
There isn't an FOIA request big enough to unseal the top of this powder keg. This is Colonel Glenn Galloway closing this interview. End audio transcript.
Please, I'm begging you, listen to me. This is worth the public unrest. This could be our only...
Nothing like making existential horror directly before a presidential election, eh? Really just gets you in the voting spirit. Let me know if you liked that, or if you didn't like it, or what you think I could have done better, or what you think I did really well. But yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and it makes me smile on occasion. I like when the numbers get bigger. Make sure to also follow me on Twitter if you're interested, and let me know if I should stream Shipwrecked 64 next month. Maybe I'll make a whole thing out of it and cry. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel, and please have a happy and fun Halloween night. Until I see you next time, this is Spaceman Scott, going to sleep.
Breaking down my breakdowns to see you, breaking all the bad news to free you, beating all these odds just to meet you, 'cause you're the only one who really gives a fuck about me. Having a panic attack in the morning.